All right, well, how's it going, fight fans? Going to be talking to you guys about UFC 309. Going to be going in depth with my predictions through the card, through the fights that interest me the most. I'm not going to go through every single fight on this card because some of these fights on this card is trash and it doesn't deserve to be on this card. This card is very, very mid, very, very underwhelming, but hopefully it can be able to overperform. A few things that I want to be able to go over with. Azamat Mirzakhanov pulled out of his fight against Nikita Krylov, if you guys haven't known. And David Onama was supposed to fight Lucas Almeida, but Almeida pulled out on that fight as well. Don't know if they're going to be looking for replacements, late replacements for those guys. Haven't seen David Onama in about a year. Same thing you could say about Nikita Krylov. Haven't seen those guys fight in a very long time, so hopefully we can be able to see them in action. If not, then they're just going to be off the card. So I'm just going to be talking about the fights that are surely secure that they're going to be fighting on this card. Starting off with Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. I mean, good lord, the wily vets go at it. Last time we seen Jim Miller was at UFC 300, and that's going to be a recurring theme about this card. Actually, there's going to be a few people that have fought on UFC 300 that are now just returning back to action, going to be fighting on this card on UFC 309. Coming off that loss against King Green, before known or previously known as Bobby Green. Um, and he took pretty much a beating in that fight, even though he was kind of competitive, I would say, in the first round. But other than that, Bobby Green was doing exactly what he needed to do, piecing him up pretty easily. And Damon Jackson got completely emasculated by Chepe Marascal last time he was in the octagon. He just got dominated, man. He looked weak. He looked like he didn't even belong. And this is more suit of a fight for him, honestly, to be able to get back into action. But even then, I like my chances with Jim Miller because Damon Jackson looked like a complete effeminate bitch in that octagon. Very, very sad for him. It is what it is. Moving on up the card, we have Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGee. This is actually low key a banger on this card. Jonathan Martinez was on a little run, putting together a lot of wins and on a winning streak. You know, beating Saeed Nurmagomedov, beating Adrian Nunez. He was doing his thing. You know, he was actually putting on some good wins. Has a ranking, and now going against Marcus McGee, who as of right now is 3-0 in the UFC, all finishes, got a submission and two TKO or two knockouts on his record. This is low key going to be a banger. I think the low kicks are going to be something that McGee is going to be focusing on a lot because that's the major weapon, in my opinion, that Jonathan Martinez has. He has some hellacious leg kicks. Um, but if Marcus McGee, ugly looking son of a gun that he is able to, weather that type of storm that Jonathan Martinez is going to bring to him, I think Marcus McGee is going to actually have some success. And I actually have him favored in this fight. I'm going to go with Marcus McGee over Jonathan Martinez. Something that just got recently added to this card. Jonathan Diniz is going to be going against Marcin Tybura. Diniz was supposed to be fighting Derek Lewis in the Edmonton card. Derek Lewis pulled out last second, like a day before the day of that fight card. And since that happened, they now rescheduled Diniz to fight Marcin Tybura, which is a completely different style than what Derek Lewis is. Derek Lewis is a complete stand-up fighter, wanting to mix it up. You know, has that tremendous knockout power. And Tybura is okay, mid as per usual for the run-of-the-mill type of heavyweight that we see, but he is very good with the grappling and the takedowns compared to Derek Lewis. So this is something a big change for Jonathan Diniz that he has to take into consideration going into this fight. And with that being said, and the last time we seen Marcin Tybura, he lost to Sergey Spivak pretty easily and pretty quick. And the competition that Jonathan Diniz has beat is Carl Williams and Austin Lane. I don't really rate that. He could be something. He has some potential to be potentially something in the UFC. But I got Marcin Tybura. I think he's highly ranked for a reason. Even though again he is pretty mid, the run of the mill type of fighter that you see in heavyweight. Big fat, not fat, super fat, but he is fat for heavyweight. Moving on up the card, we have Mauricio Rufy versus Iames Lontop. Mauricio is a guy that is running with the Fighting Nerds. I love the Fighting Nerds camp. Uh, Everybody, Wakal Barajo, Gene Silva, Carlos Prates, who's going to be fighting this weekend, and Mauricio Rufy going against Yamis Lontop. So, I mean, he beat Jamie Malarkey in KO in his UFC debut. Really is just showing off that type of striking that these guys usually have. That power in their hands is just tremendous. And Yontop is coming off back-to-back losses against Chris Padilla, and his last outing he had was Vyacheslav Borshev, which is pretty decent competition. But even though he did make it, kind of competitive with Borshev, he clearly was getting outpointed and outstruck in that fight. And with this fight coming up with Mauricio Rufy, I expect Rufy to get him out of there pretty quickly. Even though Jan Top does have a chin on him, and again he's able to mix it up and is able to be competitive. I think Rufy has the power advantage. I think he gets him out of there pretty freaking easily. Moving on up the card, we have Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders. Uh, Last time out, we seen Chris Weidman. He beat Bruno Silva via IPO KO. Very honestly, it was actually very surprising seeing him out there. Like, look actually good. Very kind of almost like suspiciously surprising as to how good he looked because of his last outings that he's fought. Maybe he's fought some high caliber competition. I honestly don't believe that, but most of the time that he was fighting previous to Bruno Silva, he was getting knocked out or he was just getting mopped on the floor with in the octagon. So he had a pretty good outing against Bruno Silva, even though Bruno Silva recently just fought in UFC 308 and he just got like, man, he looked like he went there to just get the check. And Eric Anders coming off the win against Jamie Pickett, he looked really really good. Um, hasn't really fought since then, since that fight. So this is actually a big opportunity for him. They're going to be fighting on the main card. I think it will be the main card opener, unfortunately, which is crazy to say. Um, at this age of these two guys, where they're really unranked, but they're kind of, I guess, names that are outside of the light heavyweight division. Um, I'm gonna go with Chris Weidman. He looked a lot better than what Eric Anders is, even though Eric Anders looked like he still is improving in his own way in his old age. But I don't know. I guess I'm gonna go with Chris Weidman over Eric Anders. And moving on to the feature fight of this card, we have Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. This is I wouldn't say a layup. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is not the easiest of all easiest layups that we have, all right? Bo Nickal is a tremendous wrestler, has shown flashes and shown some potential with his stand up, and Paul Craig's stand up is absolutely horrendous. The most stiff and like I know people that have trained for 3 months that look better than Paul Craig with stand up. I mean, it's just sad, right? Paul Craig is known for mixing it up with the takedowns, and his BJJ is tremendous, one of the best. Um, so if Bo Nickal is just trying to go in there, muscle his way in, and get these takedowns, and just think it's gonna be an easy night for him, and he doesn't have to worry about anything else. He definitely has to worry about those submission threats because Paul Craig is very, very creative with his subs. So I think what Bo Nickal is going to do is he's going to want to keep this fight on the feet and really show and prove that he's getting a lot better with his striking, especially with whether it be his boxing or kickboxing, and get a knockout on Paul Craig because that's really what he's there to be get done. He's there to get knocked out. He's not, again, his stand up is absolutely horrendous. So I'm gonna go Bo Nickal by KO. Moving on to the co-main event, we have the returning Michael Chandler versus Charles Dubrunce Oliveira. Man, I actually do think that this fight will actually be kind of a banger. Low key, low key. This is a rematch of their first fight where they were fighting for an interim or the vacant lightweight championship. Before Michael Chandler hasn't been in the octagon since 2022, since he fought Dustin Poirier. It literally has. Well, it will have been 2 years to the date since he's been in the octagon. He's been waiting and trying to be able to get that fight, the big money fight against Conor McGregor. Finally decided to move on with his career. It took 2 years off. Again, he could be rusty. Could not be up to shape and up to par of what he actually could have been doing. Could have been making a lot more money, but he stayed pat and did what he needed to do. And you have Charles Oliveira, who has been active, trying to be able to stay at that top contender in the lightweight division. This, I believe, is a number one contenders match between these two guys. I've heard some stuff on social media potentially about either of these guys maybe pulling out of this fight. Hopefully that does not happen, and hopefully they're able to go and go against each other. But Oliveira, had his title chance against Islam Makhachev, lost that fight, then went on to beat Beneil Dariush pretty easily in the first round, then had a very, very competitive and very close decision loss against Arman Sharukian. He's been a lot more active. I think he's actually a lot more better than Michael Chandler in any way, even though Michael Chandler is very good with the stand-up, has power in his hands, has very good boxing, good wrestling as well. But his IQ is just horrendous, and everybody knows that. That's really Michael Chandler's downfall, is that he just goes in there and, wants to put on a good fight for the fans and does what he needs to do and be a warrior and have heart. But at the end of the day, bro, you're there to win. And if he was actually there to win, he would be a freaking terror to be able to deal with. But since his IQ is shit, and I love Charles Oliveira, I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira again to be able to get either a knockout or submission. I'm going to go with a sub in the second round against Michael Chandler and prove again that he's still one of the top echelon, cream of the crop at lightweight division. Moving on up the card to the main event, we have Old Man Stipe going against John Bones Jones. Man, this fight should have happened a long time ago. They had this fight on the cards for last year. John Jones pulled out due to I believe it was a shoulder or chest injury or something happened along the lines of that. So John Jones pulled out, and he's still champion for some reason, even though Tom Aspinall has won the interim belt and has already defended his belt, while John Jones has been sitting on the sidelines waiting to get this fight against Stipe Miocic that he's been calling for. And both of these boys honestly look like they don't want the smoke with Tom Aspinall. They look to be looking at retirement, whether they win or lose at this main event on this card. This is pretty much, again, for the, heavyweight title, whatever the case may be, or to this is just to crown who is the best or the GOAT of the heavyweight division, pretty much, with John Jones just putting his hat into the ring in the heavyweight division that he just put in. He's fought at 2023 or at 2022. It was one of those years. I think it might have been early 2023. He returned to fight Surreal Gone, and he got the first round
while
submission
he did
get
get
that first round submission against him, it was a very, very honestly underwhelming performance by Gone. He really just let him cinch in that choke, and that was pretty much the end of it. But John Jones has only fought once in 4 years. And Stipe Miocic, we haven't seen him fought since he got slept badly by Francis Ngannou. And that was about 3 to 4 years ago. And so these two guys are old in age. Both have a lot of ring rust. And honestly, the way that this fight has been shaping up and the way it looks, this look like it's going to be a stinker. It's going to be a stink fest. I think it's going to be a very, very boring fight. Hopefully, I'm wrong. It could be actually very competitive and, compelling to be able to watch some type of entertainment. These guys are pretty both good with the wrestling in hindsight, but, with their age, how's everything looking and how their bodies have been creaking and them looking at the face of retirement. Um, I'm gonna go with John Jones to get the win. I think he actually wins by decision. I don't think while Stipe has been knocked out and with old age, your chin does deteriorate. That you're able, you being able to deal with the punishment goes away. You could say the same thing with John Jones, but John Jones is only at 37 years old as of right now. Again, coming off the injury, and also dealing with him being very inactive, both of these guys, I can't really expect and really see much out of these two guys to have much success. I think, yeah, you will get some moments and flashes of how they used to fight beforehand, but I think that this will be a stink fest, and we all know who is the real crown and who's the real king as of right now in the heavyweight division, and his name is Tom Aspinall. But those are my predictions for the UFC 309 card. Thank you guys for watching. Obviously, like this video if you like this video. Comment your opinions on what do you think is going to happen at UFC 309 and who you have winning and who you have coming on top. If you disagree on what my opinions on what you think is going to go on this card, make sure to be able to leave that there so we can have some back and forth in the community. And subscribe, man. Subscribe to this channel because you know I got this type of beautiful content that you guys been wanting every single weekend. You know I got you, baby. Let's go. Thank you guys again for watching, and peace.